Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we engage in the very last sitting of Parliament for 2024, it's an ideal opportunity for all of us to express best wishes to our constituents and to the country. It also offers an opportunity for us to reflect on the year that we've had in Parliament and, in a sense, almost anticipate what will happen in the new year. But I want to start off, Mr. Speaker, by supporting the motion before us, Mr. Speaker, as explained by the member from Castries East. In the Tourism Development Act, which was passed in February of this year, it provides for concessions to be given for investments in the tourism industry. And specifically, it provides for the waiver of VAT, Mr. Speaker, on construction materials, on equipment, and on certain items. It is provided in the VAT Act in a schedule or legislation that provides for the waiver of VAT to be listed in that schedule. And of course, with the passage of the TDA, the Tourism Development Act, it was required that we place in the schedule of the VAT Act the specific legislation, the TDA, the Tourism Development Act, to allow for this to be facilitated. On examination, we noticed that in the VAT Act, what was in fact listed in the schedule is the Tourism Incentives Act and not the Tourism Investment and Stimulus Act, which was an error for the last few years, because the Tourism Incentives Act does not provide for the waiver of VAT, but it is rather the Tourism Investment and Stimulus Act that provides for this. So this motion really corrects those two particular situations. One, to correct an error which was there, because it should not have been, from what I have been briefed on, the Tourism Incentives Act that should have been listed there. Should have been the Tourism Investment and Stimulus Act, Mr. Speaker, and Tourism Stimulus and Investment Act, and now with the passage of the TDA, the Tourism Development Act, to include the Tourism Development Act on the schedule. So this is really aimed at correcting that situation, and of course to correctly provide for the waiver of VAT under the TDA. As said by the member from Castries East and Prime Minister, the tourism industry has been achieving unparalleled successes this year, Mr. Speaker. And when we started in this House, I recall as Minister of Tourism, I made a point that I did not want to be a Minister of Tourism that came to the Honorable House on each occasion boasting about successes in terms of numbers. Yes, we are concerned about the quantitative. The quantitative must drive the qualitative. In fact, it's the only way you can have qualitative improvement is if quantitatively you reach that threshold. We wanted to come to the House repeatedly to boast on how we were improving the quality of our tourism. But you cannot take away from the fact that we've had unparalleled success quantitatively. The member from Castries East stated that we've already surpassed our numbers for 2019, Mr. Speaker. Already surpassed our numbers for 2019. Mr. Speaker, 2019 was the best year, Mr. Speaker, for tourism arrivals in this country. And we're already trending at least 4% up on 2019, Mr. Speaker. And on many occasions, Mr. Speaker, for this year, we have had best arrivals for the particular months. So we expect by the end, Mr. Speaker, of 2024, for our numbers to be at least 5% better than we were in 2019, and will represent the best year for St. Lucia. And that's still over arrivals, Mr. Speaker. When you look at cruise passenger arrivals, we're also going to have the best calendar year ever, because the cruise, there's calendar January to December, but the cruise season, which is generally October to May. But if we look at the calendar year 2024, we will top almost 825,000 arrivals. which will be significantly an improvement on last year, and certainly the best year ever for cruise passenger arrivals in St. Lucia. So both for stayover arrivals and for cruise passenger arrivals, St. Lucia will have its best year in 2019. In fact, if you just take a peep across to the harbor, since 2019, if you take a peep at the harbor, you'll see 4 ships in the harbor. Almost 9,000 cruise passengers are in Port Castries today, Mr. Speaker. And only recently, we welcome once again, since COVID, the first cruise ships in Soufrière, Mr. Speaker. And of course, you would have also noted, Mr. Speaker, the hoardings are going up around the old customs building, which signals that the GPH project will commence in terms of its physical implementation, Mr. Speaker, that the old customs building will be broken down, there'll be parking and rationalization of that area. The work will start on the new vendors arcade, its expansion to where the old fire station was, Mr. Speaker, and sometime next year, the boardwalk from the Sanssouci Bridge to the new vendors arcade will be built, Mr. Speaker. A fisherman's village in Banan, Mr. Speaker, a very special place to many of us in here, Mr. Speaker, will be built that will enhance the experience of the cruise passenger arrivals. And of course, Soufrière waterfront would be redeveloped, all part of enhancing and elevating our cruise passenger experience in St. Lucia. Mr. Speaker, we're also very proud of the work that we're doing as it relates to community tourism. We have said, and it's been a long-standing clarion call of the St. Lucia Labour Party when in government, that the tourism benefits must accrue to as many St. Lucians as possible. Gone are the days of the all-inclusives, gone are the days when a small, selected number of persons are the greatest beneficiaries of the tourism industry. If you think about it, Mr. Speaker, the greatest assets of the tourism industry, the extraordinary physical beauty of St. Lucia, the mountains, the rivers, the beaches, the people, Mr. Speaker, our hospitality, all of that belongs to us, the people of St. Lucia. And therefore, the logical question is always, who should enjoy the greatest benefits from the tourism industry? And it should be the people. And therefore, it's one of the reasons why we were so proud to pass the new minimum wage, because it meant almost 4,000 workers in the hospitality sector was able to get an increase on their wages and bring to them greater benefits from the hospitality sector. And keeping that philosophy in mind, we've said we want more St. Lucians to participate in the tourism industry and more St. Lucians to start owning the tourism industry. And it is why we are so proud of the community tourism program, Mr. Speaker, a deliberate effort by this government, building on the past, heritage tourism and other efforts in the past, to make monies available to St. Lucians, either for grant and loan or both, to enable them to invest in the tourism industry and at extraordinary low interest rates. Because we believe our people should start investing in the tourism industry and getting greater benefits. For every tourist dollar that comes to St. Lucia, more of it must stay in St. Lucia. And more will stay if the visitors start shifting from resort-based experiences to community-based experiences. So, Mr. Speaker, at the appropriate time next year, I will stand in this honorable house and I will give a full report on the successes of the tourism industry, not just in numbers, because we'll be untouched by the achievements in numbers, but the qualitative transformation of the tourism industry. Our signature project for next year is an underwater sculpture park, Mr. Speaker. One of the most exciting projects that we would have had in St. Lucia, where the story of St. Lucia, the historical story, the story of our culture, the story of our traditions will be told by having sculptures placed underwater in a park. We are finalizing the selection of the sites for the park, Mr. Speaker, and I notice a particular member is, Mr. Speaker, seeking to find out where the parks will be. Luckily, Mr. Speaker, some of the best areas, I must tell you, for the park is along the west coast, stretching from Canaries up to Cicero, Mr. Speaker. So, you know, Mr. Speaker, we will have a gem of an experience, you know, that we will be introducing, starting off with one park next year, the History Park, Mr. Speaker, and we are finalizing the work on it. There is so much happening in tourism, so much happening to ensure that our people own the tourism industry, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the Tourism Development Act, which is going to be placed on the VAT Act schedule, is a very vital instrument for us achieving those objectives. Our objective is to build a tourism industry that's resilient, that's inclusive, and is sustainable, Mr. Speaker. And that Tourism Development Act has helped us. Another important reason why we need to ensure we get this right, Mr. Speaker, is because of the amount of investment we are now seeing in the tourism industry. Not since, Mr. Speaker, 1997 to 2006 have we seen so much investment in this country as we are witnessing now, Mr. Speaker. Not since that period. Significant investments. At Mont Pima, the Isla hotel complex that is being built, we'll see 4 hotels being built. By May next year, the new Wellness Center Lifeco will open. The leading wellness retreat in the Caribbean will open at the former Caribbean Jewels Hotel, which has been refurbished and been expanded. In addition, a couples hotel, a family hotel, and a villa complex will be built. Right next to it, formerly occupied by the Royal St. Lucian Papillon. You will notice over the next few days, demolition starting on the other 2 hotels for the construction of an ultra-modern hotel resort there, Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure if you'll remember, right here in this house, 2017, Prime Minister of that, at that time, now leader of the opposition, announced that a hotel was going to start within the next few weeks on that property. 7 years ago, Mr. Speaker. It will start, Mr. Speaker, and the demolition will take place, Mr. Speaker. And there's a whole story as to why it never started before. But I'll come to that shortly, Mr. Speaker. Of course, Mr. Speaker, you will see over the next few weeks, even more construction started. Right now, we have the Rodney Bay City Center complex that has started. The first building that's going up is a corporate headquarters for Republic Bank, and also will be added is a hotel and shop, restaurants, bars, Mr. Speaker, shopping mall. It will be an entire complex that will be built. It has started, Mr. Speaker. Of course, in the south, there will be a number of developments also taking place. We have right now in this country serious challenges, Mr. Speaker, supply chain issues. Developers saying that they cannot get concrete, they cannot get, materials. Even labor is now an issue. That we've had to engage developers who are saying that there is a shortage of labor. Not that there are not persons who want to work or may want to work, but the quality of workers that they want, and even the kind of dedication and commitment and output they want from workers is of rising concern to them. But these are issues, Mr. Speaker, that we will deal with in the new year. Mr. Speaker, the simple truth is that the economy is booming. You look at the results. The IMF just came to St. Lucia and announced what the growth is expected for the year, Mr. Speaker, telling you that the economy is robust, the economy is growing, and economic activity is at a high in St. Lucia, Mr. Speaker. So I'm really proud, Mr. Speaker, to support this motion. Mr. Speaker, let me take the opportunity also to say a few other things. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I probably will not speak again this afternoon, so I will want to take the opportunity to wish my constituents the very best for the season. We've already had 2 children's parties in Marigot, in Basta Joseph. We will have, Mr. Speaker, some, Mr. Speaker, have huge entertainment experiences. We are a lot more humble, Mr. Speaker. We have smaller community-type activities, Mr. Speaker. So we're going to have a party in Goodlands, one in Cicero, and one in Banan, Mr. Speaker. We will also, Mr. Speaker, have our distribution of hampers for the sick and shut-in. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the STEP program started yesterday. And, a few hundred persons from Castle South will be getting some employment and some, income for the season. We look forward, Mr. Speaker, to our always anticipated black cake and sorrel competition. where we test the communities. 11 community groups will take part this year to see who can bake the best black cake and make the best sorrel, Mr. Speaker. And luckily, every year I'm one of the tasters, so I get an opportunity to taste the different styles of baking, Mr. Speaker, and making sorrel. And of course, we run it up with our solo night, Mr. Speaker. I don't know if the member from Beaufort North will drop by, but we always have a group from Denry North that comes and entertains us, Mr. Speaker. So we're going to have a very good Christmas season. And it's going to be good because the people have confidence in the government. The economy is doing well. It's not too much. Nobody has too much, Mr. Speaker. Everybody wants a little more. But we are endeavoring to put people first and to make sure. In the constituency, we've had a good year, Mr. Speaker. Good year. We're completing the restoration, the rehabilitation of the Cicero playing field, putting lights, a dressing room, seating, Mr. Speaker. It's been a long battle because, Mr. Speaker, the former Prime Minister, Kenny Anthony, in 2016, had approved under Robert Louis for the rehabilitation of the Cicero playing field. It was never done. 5 years, Mr. Speaker. The member from Strozel, Saltburst, is not here because he's complaining every day on the shows about how little he's getting. But he never said that under his government, they stopped the works at the Cicero playing field. And it's under this government, under the leadership of the member from Grosile, that support had been given for us to restart that program and for us to get that field done. In Basse Joseph, Mr. Speaker, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will open the Basse Joseph Community Center. Again, the member from Beaufort South, under his leadership, and Robert Louis, that project started halfway through, stopped in 2016, and nothing happened for 5 years. It's under this government, under the leadership of the member from Castries East, that we've now able to complete that community center, Mr. Speaker. The roads in Marigot, in Basse Joseph, started. The member from Castries North, in the previous government, came in this honorable house, stood up, announced that the road rehabilitation would start. The boards were put up, and a certain member from Castries office stood up and said that is not going to happen, and the roads were not rehabilitated. And he stood up in the house and he announced it. And again, he had to take this government to come and rehabilitate the roads for the communities of Basse Joseph and Marigot. Still not completed yet, honorable member from Castries North, but we are a lot better than where we were. And I can go on and mention a few projects, Mr. Speaker, that we've achieved, and I'm looking forward to next year. Next year is going to be our best year, Mr. Speaker, because a lot of planning, a lot of waiting, a lot of anticipation, and I'm looking forward to next year, Mr. Speaker. So I want to wish all my constituents a really Merry Christmas, and to say to them, Mr. Speaker, that I'm really honored that I am their representative, and I promise to do more than anyone else before in Castries South would have done, Mr. Speaker, because they deserve it. It is the constituency of George Charles, Mr. Speaker, of John Odlam, Robert Louis, Mr. Speaker. And I'll tell you, even Desmond Braffett, who was from the United Workers' Party, did quite a bit in Castries South, Mr. Speaker. So it's a continuation, Mr. Speaker, and we would have done quite a bit. But, Mr. Speaker, the year has not been an easy one, truth be told. It's probably been one of the most challenging years, Mr. Speaker, for me personally, and for this government in many ways, Mr. Speaker. A lot has been said. A lot has been said. And to spare me a few minutes, Mr. Speaker, for me to say a few things that are on my mind, Mr. Speaker. A lot of accusations, especially about the CIP. The opposition has been systematic, brutal, vindictive, and malicious every single day. An attack on Ernest Hilaire. Every single day. To the point saying, accusing me of stealing over $1 billion US. It still baffles me. How does one steal $1 billion US? I mean, maybe only the opposition can think of such a thing. $1 billion and manipulation of figures. And not they alone, Mr. Speaker. They have a lot of people who support them, surrogates, jealous people, all kinds of persons who just want to say things, Mr. Speaker. And it goes on every single day. And I've said to myself, I resolve to be the best parliamentary rep that I can be, and to be the best minister in the government led by Philip J. Pierre. That's my resolve. Every single day I am motivated by that. I know I'm one of the most blessed individuals around. I know that. my whole life, my achievements, my journeys, I have to be blessed, Mr. Speaker, and I'm grateful for this. So I stay focused and I work hard. Every single day I wake up, I'm focused on working as hard as I can to fulfill those intentions I have. So I don't let the noise, get the better of me. But it's going on and on and on. And the day of reckoning must come, Mr. Speaker. Must come. It must come. So they've said a lot. They brought in Martinez. Martinez said his piece. He said who Martinez interviewed, Mr. Speaker. And he's going to put me on RICO case, and I'm still waiting for him to put me in the RICO case. And the accusations go on and on of corruption. The Prime Minister called me in and asked me as his minister, have you done anything wrong? And I've had to say to him, Prime Minister, I have not done anything wrong. He asked me in front of my colleagues. He asked me in front of the Attorney General. He asked my colleagues to ask me any question they want to make sure that I accounted for all that was being said. And I will say to the Prime Minister, he can do that anytime any accusation is made. And if anybody should come up with any so-called evidence, I would be the first one to call for an investigation in myself. And not by local investigators. We can go international, because it must be a fraud. I know that. Nobody can say Ernest Hilaire has bought property in St. Lucia. Ernest Hilaire has bought anything. Mr. Speaker, what I have is very simple. I'm not a materialistic man. I've never had dreams of having money or properties all over the place. I know God gave me knowledge. He gave me skills that I can always use to be satisfied in life. I have less now than I had when I started in politics. Less property now that I had to sell, Mr. Speaker. I don't go and look to buy property to invest, do anything. I hear about accounts everywhere. I have no accounts out of St. Lucia. I've had, when I worked in Barbados, when I worked in England, I have had, when I worked in New York, I've had accounts overseas. I don't have. All my accounts are here. Every cent can be accounted for. I can say that anywhere, anytime. No contractor can tell you Ernest Hilaire has ever made deal with them or asked for kickback, no matter what size of contract. I oversaw the building of the National Stadium, the cricket ground. Never, Mr. Speaker, because I know tomorrow I can leave this job and I can walk into another job and earn a living. I believe that. Just like I believe as a young man on the bridge that one day I would go to university and I would achieve an education that I can take care of myself. So a lot has been said, Mr. Speaker, and the time is coming, because I've been for the last 3.5 years the best minister I can be. I've really tried. The best parliamentary rep. But the politics is starting, because the elections is coming in 2026. I can't continue to just try to be best minister and best parliamentary rep. Not anymore, Mr. Speaker. It's time for me to start answering, because I can fight. And St. Lucians know I can fight back. So the fight back will have to start, Mr. Speaker. I'm accustomed to it, Mr. Speaker. Accustomed to it. I've had to read a document sent by the last government to the US Department of Justice, asking them to get permission from Gmail to give them access to all my Gmails, to read my messages and all my emails, Mr. Speaker. I've had to read it. I've had to read, Mr. Speaker. I've had to read. Scotland Yard sent an email to somebody to interview them because the last government asked that there be a criminal investigation into me. I've had to read it and I've survived it. And look at my margin in the last victory. Despite all of that, what does it say to you, Mr. Speaker? But they've continued. They've not learned their lesson, Mr. Speaker. They've continued and they've continued. Now some people say, oh, don't say anything, don't answer them. But there comes a time when you must say to them, enough is enough. Now you know why, Mr. Speaker, they cannot break my resolve. They can never break my resolve. And I said to Martinez, and I will say to all of them, I wake up every day with a smile on my face. I wake up knowing that I have issues to deal with in the ministry, issues to deal with in my constituency, and I want to solve those problems, make the lives of people better. You see, Mr. Speaker, I never thought I would be a parliamentary rep, I love politics. I love campaigns. I like to be on the strategy team. I like to plan those campaigns. I never thought I would be a parliamentary rep. It was never my desire. But I got an opportunity. for me to be a parliamentary rep, and I became one. I don't go to bed dreaming of being prime minister. George Charles didn't leave no will to make me no conscience of Labour Party or no right to me. I am just honored to serve my constituency. And when I feel I have done enough, I will move on. Those who harbor those dreams, that's theirs. Those who want to go and enjoy all the, the benefits of power, how we call it, chagoué pouvoir, and those who never really had it but dreaming of it. I am not one of them, Mr. Speaker. So there's nothing they can say or do that will make me feel, Mr. Speaker, I'm any other person than who I am, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, they cannot break that resolve of mine. I cannot be a bitter person. I cannot be an angry person. I go to bed every night, I feel good. When I wake up early, it's because I have so much on my mind to do for the day. So they will say and they will say. But they will have to account, Mr. Speaker. Now, there's a gentleman from Castries East, Mr. Chico, Mr. Speaker, who said a lot of things. And he wrote to the special prosecutor filing a claim about Ernest Hilaire, I think the AG, the Controller of Customs, and the special prosecutor wrote back to him. I'll try and get a copy of the letter and make it a document of the House and against the Prime Minister. And in that letter, the special prosecutor is telling him that there's no basis for what he's saying. And he was advised by a lot of persons, customs, former customs people and whatnot. There was no basis for it. And even to the point of saying to him, he might have been filing a false claim. Is it a claim? I don't know, a false claim or whatever. Just saying things. A gentleman who acted in a particular manner, I don't want to go into all the details with it because it is still in a sense before the courts. In a particular manner, I sued him. He agreed to apologize to me, so I will not pursue the case. We recorded the apology. He goes in public and said he never apologized. When we recorded the apology, that's how bizarre the opposition is. Bizarre the opposition is. And his claim is, if he asks me for a document, no matter whether it's reasonable or not, and I don't provide it, he can charge me. But, Mr. Speaker, if he made a false claim against me, I want my lawyers to take a look at it and take action against him if necessary. But the most bizarre one has been Nancy Charles. Because she's been everywhere, especially last week, saying a lot of things, including, Mr. Speaker, playing some recording from Michael Holden about something that happened at West Indies Cricket, a loan that was made in December 2015. Mr. Speaker, 2015, no, let me get it right. December 2013. December 2013, I was not even working at the West Indies Cricket Board. I was High Commissioner in London. A loan that was made in December 2014, and imputing I was involved live on television, on a talk show with Andre Paul. And she goes on and on, the usual things, joint account, this and that, Mr. Speaker, all the things he did, Jufali, all those things, Range Rover, Jeep, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I've allowed it to go on and on. People all over the world, fellow ministers, friends, it goes on and on. It stops with Nancy Charles today. She said last week, I cannot respond, I can't even sue her, because it's not true. But Nancy Charles will get a letter today, tomorrow at the latest, to appear in the courts, to prove all the things she said, and to give all her evidence that the things she said are true. I heard they said next year is war. They declaring war. My war is a different kind of war. One member, former from Castries office, say, how do you say, and they've declared war. They said all kinds of things, Mr. Speaker. And they've been going on and on. They've been marching. They've been making noise, threatening persons, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have no intention, Mr. Speaker, next year of just continuing in the same mode of being a nice, loyal, member of the cabinet as a minister. Next year, I'm going to be a political fighter too. Next year, too. So if they want to fight, we'll have a political fight. I'm not involved in no physical fight. Mine is a different kind of fight, Mr. Speaker. So it starts Nancy Charles will have to come to court and prove what she said. And anyone that can say anything about Ernest about corruption will have to stand up and come to a court of law and prove it. That's my first fight. And my second fight is on the ground, Mr. Speaker. In Castro South, because they've already said that that seat is gone. The guy Joseph said it in the last election, Mr. Speaker. They will have to come on the ground. And they will have to see how strong they are, Mr. Speaker. Because I will start fighting, Mr. Speaker. Gone are those days, Mr. Speaker. So as I wish all my constituents a Merry Christmas, I'm telling them, let's get ready for battle, Mr. Speaker. You see, that fight in the next election is about the conscience of this country. It's about defining who we are as a people and what we stand for. We spent 3.5 years putting people first, working hard, Mr. Speaker. That's what we've been doing, Mr. Speaker. And the opposition has been going on and on, Mr. Speaker, saying all kinds of things, all kinds of accusations. Mr. Speaker, they will have to stand up and prove their words. No matter who they are. No matter who they are. If you're going to make those claims, back it up, Mr. Speaker. If you want a political fight on the ground, let's go, Mr. Speaker. Because I haven't started saying things yet, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, when the battle starts, they'll have to explain about DSH and the agreement they signed with DSH, Mr. Speaker. Because DSH himself told us why the project never started was because of corruption from that government. And they were so bold. DSH, in the final framework agreement they proposed to us in the preamble, they actually said so. Mr. Speaker, they'll have to explain to us about Carbot, the signing of that agreement, Mr. Speaker, about GPH. Mr. Speaker, there's a lot, Mr. Speaker, if they want to go down that road. Agree for some policy. Say we made bad decisions. Say Hilaire made a bad decision. But if you want to go down that road, Mr. Speaker, we can go down that road. And I'm saying to them, anyone who says it about me, prove it, or let's go to court. And let's go on the ground, Mr. Speaker. Say, la no for, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know about my other colleagues who doesn't want to fight, who doesn't want to do anything, but I am not going to be part of this anymore, Mr. Speaker. So let me wish everybody well, Mr. Speaker. Let me support the motion, and let's look forward to a glorious 2025. Thank you very much.